MrBeast just hit 500 million subscribers. A little Freudian slip there. It is, frankly, who cares? Who cares? It's really sad to see because if you look at his channel right now, the last 10 shorts, every single one is like and subscribe, like and subscribe. It's just such an obsession with a vanity metric. Jimmy himself is the one who I learned that term from. I used to think subscribers were important. He's the one who taught me that subscribers do not matter. Subscribers are just a vanity metric, just there to fuel the ego. And yet he's been dedicating so much of his time and effort recently towards hitting that vanity metric, and I think that's really disappointing. Additionally, it's clear to anyone paying attention that the videos are not, frankly, good. At this point, there are just so many of them. How many times can you watch a large group of people do crazy thing for big amount of money? How many times can that possibly be interesting? And I'm not a MrBeast hater. I've subscribed to him when he had 8,000 subscribers. Watching his rise from zero to where he is today is a big part of the reason I've always wanted to be a content creator. But at the same time, I think it's important to note that the people who are just dunking on him for absolutely no reason, the people who try and make a problem out of him donating money to wells, to build wells in Africa. I mean, get on with yourself. Like, that's just such a stupid thing to try and tear him down and hate for. And even a lot of the controversies with some bad employees working there, to me, were pretty blown out of proportion. When you build a company with 500 people, statistically there's going to be a couple of assholes, and all of us have, done shit we're not proud of at our darkest moments. And once you build such a large organization, it's inevitable that someone within that organization is probably a piece of shit and is probably going to have some of that come to light. So I don't think holding that against him is at all fair. But that being said, I think the best criticism brought to the surface by Folding Ideas, who did an excellent expose on his experience going to North Carolina, is that the videos are just boring. It's not even about them being unethical or exploitative, which I think there's somewhat of an argument for that. And it's kind of sad to see something like empathy be monetized in our late stage capitalist system. But frankly, it is kind of a gray area with the exploitation of empathy, because at the end of the day, wells are being built in Africa regardless of how that got done. And I'm sure there's not an African kid sitting there with a glass full of water thinking, I don't even want this. I don't even want this. Jimmy, this is blood water. This is tainted. At the end of the day, I think it's probably leaning towards positive when you save starving children. But it is, maybe disheartening to see the exploitation of empathy, and after a while, you no longer get the feel-good feeling of it. I think that's a valid point. Back to what Folding Ideas brought out, the videos are simply boring. I have not watched a MrBeast video in a long time. Today, because he hit 500 million subscribers and I knew I wanted to make a video about this, I said screw it. And while I was eating my lunch, I sat down and I watched his most recent video where he had 50 YouTubers compete for a bunch of money. These were OG YouTubers, the people who inspired him and back in the day inspired me. Now, frankly, this video is pretty boring. There's too many people to get to know them individually, even if these are big names. The video probably works better than other ones because if you're familiar with these YouTubers, at the very least, they already have characters pre-built going into it, so you can kind of care to see what happens to them when, spoiler alert, not that you care, Phil DeFranco won. That was not like, it's better than nothing. I know Phil DeFranco, and I'm glad that he won, so, that's something, I guess. But it is very much reminiscent of everything that is simply boring about MrBeast nowadays, where there's too many people to really connect with any of them, and then it's just childish games. Everything he's been doing for the last 4 years is just trying to reach the high of the cultural relevance he had with that Squid Game video. and he's just not doing a great job. It just gets old after a while. There's only so many times you can watch the same thing. And there are less interesting game shows. I will bring up Family Feud, a far less interesting game show with a far less enticing premise. But Steve Harvey's funny. If you're 12, I don't particularly find him all that funny, but I can see why people would keep coming back to that show. It's a simple premise. You're there to see people win money, but who really cares? Steve really brings energy to that show in a way that Jimmy does not. And this is another thing I've been thinking about recently when analyzing MrBeast and trying to figure out how I should go about trying to be a creator, is that at this point, Jimmy has optimized his videos to such an extent that he is now the weakest link. The worst part of Jimmy's videos is now himself. And that's really sad. To be clear, I love and respect Jimmy. I think he has made the platform better in some ways and worse in others. And as a entrepreneur and as a workaholic and just generally as a thinker, I find him to be quite motivating and somebody that I would like to model myself after, at least in certain ways. I absolutely respect and even resonate with his autistic. He's autistic, if you couldn't tell. Jimmy's autistic obsession with YouTube. I definitely resonate with that. I have the same Asperger's. I love to obsess over things, and seeing his relentless commitment is inspiring. And I think that it's clearly taking a toll on his health. He's clearly taking it too far. But at the same time, it is inspiring to see, even if I don't plan on going to that extreme myself. I want to enjoy my life and relax on a beach here and there. So I don't plan on going that extreme. For a while I wanted to, and I really romanticized that life, but it's just not who I am. And I do have respect for people like that who do it. So I don't want this to feel like it's too much on one side or the other. I think he's an incredible guy, but the videos are simply pretty trash. Another recent video that he did, I think he went back to Antarctica for, I don't know, 10 days instead of a week this time. Which, first of all, is like, dude, you've already done this. All of the videos nowadays are just things he's done, but for slightly longer periods of time. And the longer period of time doesn't make the video better. Now, to be completely honest with this Antarctica or the Arctic video, I can't remember which it was. To be completely honest, I did not really watch it. I got bored within the first minute and I sort of just skipped through to see what it was all about. I actually looked at the comments and I saw that he had mentioned he was trying a slower, more storytelling approach to this video and that the editing would be very different and kind of, he didn't, it wasn't as over the top, over dramatic as it usually is, but you did still get that hint of, everything being plot and nothing being about character. You have moments throughout this video. One that I skipped to, there's, I think, Chandler. His toes were like about to fall off. They're like getting frostbite, and they're all in really rough shape. And I understand that that must be a very miserable situation, but it just feels like chores. I don't just want to watch people be miserable. There's something enticing about watching a challenge, but I also want to personally, either I want you to show me the depth of the challenge, show me every little thing about how you actually managed to set it up and how you managed to survive, but his videos are too surface level to ever dive into that. There's a game show, I think it's called Lost or something. No, it's not called Lost. Of course, it's not called Lost. Alone, was it called? I've never watched it, but it's enticing because it's these people competing for money and they're literally building traps from little pieces of tweed they find in the forest. And the nitty gritty of that is what makes it appealing. But this video doesn't have any of that. There is no nitty gritty. It's just very surface level. We're cold and we're sad, and that's not good. And yeah, I can't really fault them for not having engaging personalities while literally having their toes fall off. But I also can't help but think that if it was me and my friends in that type of a situation, we would crack jokes, even on the verge of death. If you're there for 10 days, you're going to crack a joke. You're going to be human and try and enjoy the moment. And I don't think we need, Marvel-style quipping in order to break up the tension every 2 minutes. But I do think it would honestly be much more authentic to see some of those moments where they were joking around if they did. So one of two things is true here. Either, like I said before, Jimmy, and not only Jimmy, but also his crew, are now the weakest links of the MrBeast channel. And in order to make the videos better, one of the number one things they could do is get rid of Jimmy, get rid of Nolan, bring in comedians, get The Rock to play Jimmy, get Kevin Hart to play Chandler. Ironically, that might make the videos better at this point. The other thing is that maybe they cut them out for the sake of storytelling, for the sake of keeping the tension and not wanting to undermine themselves. I think that's silly. I think it's silly to focus so much on the plot, to focus so much on the stakes of the video that you forget to have human moments. Because frankly, watching his videos recently feels like a chores list. It's not like I'm sitting down and actually enjoying myself, but rather I'm sitting down and watching the inevitable motions. Thing happens, then other thing happens, then other thing happens, then happy ending every single time. And it just feels so formulaic and without real challenge. So it's also just burning out, you know? Once you've had world ending stakes so many times between Hollywood and MrBeast, you just get bored of it. It's just no longer interesting like it once was. One of the greatest movies I've watched recently was Project Hail Mary. And what was so great about it is that they had this, fate of the world stakes. They have this big, scary space mission. I can't talk. I'm stuttering. This big, scary space mission to go on, but at the same time, it is very grounded. It's really just spoiler alert. I'm not going to get into it too much, but it's just a guy falling in love with a rock, basically, and their very human relationship built on very human emotions, and it's very intelligently written. It's genuinely fun when they make jokes. It's not like they're trying to do a Marvel quip and break the tension, but rather they're actually adding to the characterization of the movie. And the way that they solve problems is very intelligent. It's very fun to go along the ride as the movie does its logistics. They make the thing has to happen for plot very fun to watch, where in MrBeast it simply isn't. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts. I wanted to rant about the current state of YouTube, which I think is largely enabled by the MrBeast style of content. And I wanted to leave some of my thoughts on all this. One thing I've got to start doing on this channel is wrapping it up faster. I've noticed that as I've kind of done these unscripted videos, I've got very bad at dragging out the outros. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I should do the most critical thing. Pretty much it. See ya.